Well, we're here this morning to pay tribute to Mike Abood because he was a longtime contributor to Chocolate Extravaganza, what, over 20 years or something?
This is the 28th year of the Chocolate Extravaganza, and Mike was involved the first year when it was at the Pomeranian Center and was nothing more than people coming in and taking 4 desserts and going home. And it has evolved into the event it is now at the Career Center on February 15th. The Chocolate Extravaganza this year is going to be there. And Mike has been involved every year. Last year he was not able to bake for us, but prior to that he baked lots of cheesecakes. He would come in with 6, 8 cheesecakes.
And I remember the workers were always, oh, we need to make sure we get a piece of Mike Abood's cheesecakes. Everybody looked forward to that. It was an event when he walked in the door with his creation. So we really wanted to pay tribute to him because of that memory, and also because several years ago, what was it? What did we say? 11 years ago?
11 years ago.
He presented a class to some of us who were planning on baking for the Chocolate Extravaganza because we needed some tips about how to make our own cheesecakes, because even though it seems like a simple recipe, sometimes the recipe doesn't tell you what you need to know to, for instance, get it out of the pan, to not make it crack open. And I would do the same thing year after year, and of course you're going to get the same results. So this class really helped me, and I think a lot of other people avoid those. It's not hard stuff, you just have to know what to do, right?
When we asked Mike to do the class, we hoped that people would come who were afraid of cheesecakes or had never tried it and learn that it is a pretty simple recipe, and with the tips Mike gave us, we can be pretty successful with cheesecakes. So he was great that day. He told us one thing and did another, and we all looked at each other. I mean, it was Mike Abood at his best. I mean, he had an audience, and he was loving it. Yeah. But we were taking notes. I have 3 pages of notes typed from that day when we were together with Mike. But it has been really helpful, and he was really good at his craft, and it was a craft for him. I mean, he had a recipe, but he didn't look at the recipe. He'd throw in this and throw in that and do this and do that, and it worked. And,
well, and that's the definition of an artist or a chef, right?
Yes, a culinary artist.
That's right.
And our whole purpose, it was an underhanded purpose, because our whole purpose was to get more people to bake cheesecakes for the Chocolate Extravaganza, because that is the dessert that everybody comes in the door looking for, I think. Yeah. And I think we got like 8, 10 new bakers that year who all made cheesecakes, and they're still making cheesecakes today for us. So that was 11 years ago, right?
So we hope that you will watch this, learn how to make a successful cheesecake, and bake for the Chocolate Extravaganza this year.
One of the most important things is to prepare your pan. And this is a springform cheesecake pan. It is, or springform pan. It is great for cheesecakes because it tightens and it releases and allows you to get it out of the pan. But Mike taught us that the thing you need to do first is to cover the bottom of the pan with foil. And I want you to look at my pan, because there's a top to it and there's a bottom to it that has a rim. And if you put it in upside down, you're not going to get your cheesecake out. So you want to put the top down, and then you wrap it. And then it goes back in this pan. And that's going to leave this foil to come up around your pan, because cheesecakes leak. And so you can put this on, this is a pie pan, for a pie pan, but you need to put it on a tray of some kind because it will leak, and that's going to prevent that from happening. Okay, the next thing you do is you spray, and I just use Pam, but you spray the bottom of your pan and the sides. And Mike didn't show us this, but this is something that I do, and it helps. I put parchment strips in the pan so that when your cheesecake is in this pan and baking, it will be easy to get out and be easy, have a pretty side, because it won't stick to the sides of the pan. So this is the way the pan looks when you're ready to start and put your crust in, because you want to bake your crust first, because it has to cool 10 minutes before you can put your cheesecake in. Okay, and now we're to the crust. So the crust takes, this is Oreo cookies, believe it or not, and they have been put in a food processor, so they're pretty fine crumbs, and it takes 2 cups of crumbs. You can use Oreo cookies. You can, most recipes call for vanilla wafers, but you can use Oreo cookies, you can use pecan sandies, you can use cookies that will give your cheesecake a different flavor because of the crust on the bottom. For the chocolate extravaganza, I always use Oreo cookie crusts because that makes any cheesecake you're making chocolate, okay? So it is a matter of 1/4 cup of butter melted in your microwave, and then you're gonna add these 2 cups of crumbs. And you're gonna mix those well, and it takes a little while to get the butter mixed in with them because you want them mixed up pretty well. When you're mixed so that your crumbs are wet, then you just pour this in your pan. Spread it kind of evenly out in your pan. And one of the tools of the trade for me is this little glass. Has a flat bottom. This little glass with my flat bottom, it's actually cracked, but I don't throw it away because I use it, this is what I use it for. I press down this crust into this pan. Ends up making it pretty even. And if it goes up the sides a little bit, that's okay, but I don't worry about it going up the sides. I don't really want it to do that. So you can see that it's pounded in there pretty well. Okay, then this is going to go in a 300-degree oven for 10 minutes before we start making the cheesecake because it needs to cool before the cheesecake goes in it. So that's the crust.
We've just watched Mickey prepare a pan for putting a crust in that she is just going to set in the oven. What I'm going to show you is how to prepare the pan if you're going to put your cheesecake in a hot water bath. And so that takes a little more attention.
Donna, what's a hot water bath?
A hot water bath, well, it has a fancy French name, but we won't go there. But you have a pan of water setting on the shelf in your oven. It's best to have it hot. You need to put it in there hot and let it heat while your oven is heating, so the water is hot when you put your cheesecake in it. What it does is help promote even baking. That's the reason for a hot water bath. But you have the bottom of your pan. Okay. You have the bottom of your pan, and you place the foil over the pan, but that's still not gonna, 2 hands helps.
We're still not quite in
Yeah,
there.
we're not there, but we got it. This is why I use the bigger piece of foil, because once it's in there, Mickey did the same thing, except mine is going to go up higher on the sides of the pan.
Up or down?
Pull it up out of your pan. Right, and mine's to keep the water out of the inside of the pan. Yeah. Now I think Mickey wants to show you how she does hers by not putting it into the water itself, so you don't have to do this.
All right, our cheesecake crust is set. You bake it, just don't over bake it because you don't want it to get too brown, but it's set. But this is the alternative to a water bath. Without wrapping your pan any differently or anything, I put a 9x13 pan, either glass or metal, it doesn't matter. I fill it with water and I put it on the bottom shelf when I start the whole process, when I start preheating the oven. And then when you get ready to bake it, your cheesecake goes on the middle shelf and you don't have to worry about wrapping or putting it in the water. So that's just an alternative way to do that. And for me, it's easier than the water bath.
All right, the basic ingredients for a cheesecake are really simple. It's just cream cheese. We used 4 packages of cream cheese. And they need to be that needs to sit out overnight because it needs to be pretty soft when you put it in there. I have 3 of them already in there. And Mickey, would you come up and help me? I'm gonna give you this to unwrap.
And she's letting me do this because this is the hardest part of making a cheesecake.
And while
she's getting the cream cheese out of the package.
And while she's doing this, I'm just going to mix up these eggs a little bit. We're not going to put these eggs in until last, and we're going to put them in all at once. Now, the recipes I have for cheesecake say put them in one at a time and beat well after each time, and that is what you don't want to do. So that's the one time you don't follow directions on what the recipe's telling you to do.
Ta-da!
Hey, all right. And then, do you want me to give you this package? You can lick it. What's left? I put it in here.
Well, I could, but you could also scrape them off into the pan.
I guess we'll do that. Then we add 1 cup of sugar. I'll beat the sugar in there. Okay, then the last part is a teaspoon of vanilla. And this recipe came right off the package of the Philadelphia cream cheese. I'm the messiest cook in the world, so this is not as easy as it looks on TV. So anyway, we have our slightly beaten eggs that we're putting in all at once, and this is the tricky part. For me anyway. I know, I think I need to lift this up, right?
It gives you more room. And what Mike said was you just run your mixer until you don't see the eggs anymore. And it looks like cheesecake filling.
So knowing when to stop. He said it's still going to taste good if you beat it too long, but it's going to be more souffle, a lighter texture. And for cheesecake, you want to keep it pretty dense.
At this stage of the cheesecake, you may want to add some flavorings, and Mike gave us a whole list of things you could do. One of the things he did before he poured his cheesecake in was he took raspberry jam and drizzled it over the inside, and because a lot of his cheesecakes that he brings are raspberry cheesecakes, but the jam can go on it, hot fudge can go on it, caramel can go on it. You just don't want to get too much. It just drizzles on the bottom and it gives your cheesecake a different flavor. He says that to this, then you can add your favorite coffee creamer, French vanilla, hazelnut, Irish cream, or any flavor. You add 2 tablespoons of it, or you could add 1 or 2 teaspoons of instant coffee to a chocolate cheesecake and make it a mocha cheesecake. And those were basically what he talked about. He also talked about a sour cream topping that you can make and put on the last 10 minutes that you bake it. So there are things you can do at this point to make it a different. I make a Bailey's Irish cream cheesecake and a cream de menthe cheesecake, and both of them at this stage you put the liqueurs in and it becomes that flavoring. Get to this stage, if you take your pan and do this,
Oh,
that'll help.
it settles it right down in there, takes out the air that's in it.
just give it a little shake.
Right. We are going to the oven. Dottie, you want to open this?
Yes, I will get the oven.
Our water is hot underneath so that it's creating the steam. I felt it when it came out there. I'm just centering it over the water and in the oven, and we're going to put that closed, and it's going to bake for 1 hour. Okay, a lot of people, when they finish their cheesecakes, they decorate them with a chocolate ganache, which is just chocolate chips and whipping cream mixed together. And Mike gave us a recipe for this. This is 8 ounces, a cup of, and these are Ghirardelli chocolate discs, wafer discs, and they taste wonderful. You don't want to start eating them because you can't leave them alone, and you need them for your ganache. this is the whipping cream. That's 3/4 of a cup of whipping cream that is gonna just come to a simmer. And when it does that, I'm gonna pour it over these chips, and I'm gonna let it sit for 10 minutes while we do something else, and then we'll stir it up and it'll be ready to help decorate the top of our cake. Okay, this was the most amazing thing I learned from Mike at that cheesecake class. You can see I have taken the sides off of the springform pan, and I did that before I put it in the refrigerator last night, and it has been in the refrigerator overnight. And you can make a cheesecake up to 3 days before you're going to serve it, and put it in your refrigerator and take it out when you're ready to decorate it and present it. So this has been in the refrigerator for 2 days, I think, and this is what I wanted to show you about putting the parchment paper around.
Slides right off there.
Your cheesecake has not stuck to your pan in any way, and you're left with sides that look pretty good. Even if you just put your ganache on and let it run down over the edge, your cheesecake's gonna look fine. Now this was when I watched him do this and I thought, you can't do that. This is a cake board, a 10-inch cake board, and I'm gonna put it right on top of this. And I'm gonna turn it over, and that allows me to take my bottom of my cheesecake pan and that off, so that now I can put these, because I'm gonna decorate it a little bit, so I'm gonna put these on it. And I'm gonna pull these out after I decorate, because sometimes your plate gets pretty messy and you don't want it to. And this is the plate I'm gonna be serving it on. And then I'm gonna pick it all up again and turn it back over. Doesn't matter if it slides, because you can slide it right back on there. But there.
Okay, we're gonna ice this just like we would ice a cake. And I'm just going to do it on the sides for now, because we're gonna pipe on the top.
The point at you and wrapping this over. Okay, and that makes your cream. And you want it to come to a point at the bottom so your icing doesn't roll out. This is a little soft, but we're gonna
I think we'll manage it.
make it.
I think we'll be able to do it, yeah.
Okay, and when you get that in, you're gonna fold this all down so that when you squeeze it, it's not gonna come out in your hand. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna squeeze so it comes out this end. You cut that off. You don't want it to roll out, but see, your icing's gonna come out like that. And you can decorate without the icing around. You can just push this to the side of your cheesecake and it'll run down over, and because you've got the wax paper around it, you can pull that out and make it look pretty decent. It'll look pretty, which is good. So I'm just gonna go around this. I'm not good at this. I worked at Howard's Pastry Shop when I was 16 to 18 years old, and this is where I learned to do this, and I was never good enough to do the whole cake by myself. So that tells you something about what I can do with this. Okay, so what we're going to do with these, this is what Mike did with it. Serves one. But thank you, Mike Abood, because you have given us all a wonderful legacy.
have given us the courage to do cheesecakes,
Yes.
which we would not have done.
And we hope this crazy video that probably we don't know what it's going to be in the end, but we thank Kirby Hasseman for putting it together for us, and we hope that all of you will be encouraged to make cheesecakes for the chocolate extravaganza, or cakes, or cookies, or fudge, or candy,
So just
anything chocolate.
call the Pomerene Center, right?
Yes, call the Pomerene Center and let them know that you would be willing to bake for us. And the event is February the 15th, and you bring your chocolate desserts on the Friday night before that, on the 14th, from 4 to 6 at the Career Center, and Saturday morning from 10 to noon, you deliver your dessert to us. If you have it, bring it on a plate that you want back, please be sure and put your name on it. Yes. That's one of the things that we struggle with, is getting everything back to the right people. But the Pomerene Center for the Arts has one big fundraiser a year, and it is the Chocolate Extravaganza. And we hold it at the Career Center because it seats a lot of people, and we hope all of you will come and support the culinary arts in our community.
Amen.